Good afternoon, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Soul Food Book Club. I'm Teri Angel, your host, and we have a wonderful group today who's going to get in a discussion about the latest book we are reading, The Way of the Shaman. We have Charlie Coons with us.
Hello, everyone.
Linda Lemieux.
Hi.
Auntie Jean.
Hi, everyone.
Mary Lou.
Hello from Massachusetts.
And our Grace Isis.
Hello, everyone. I'm home.
All right. You're home. I'm so glad. So as I said, we are doing The Way of the Shaman. I have to have mine on Kindle because I am on the road and it's hard to have books, but you guys with the books can hold them up. There you go. The Way of the Shaman by Michael Harner. So how are we liking it so far? Let's get into this discussion and see what everybody's thinking about the book.
I thought the introduction had some really big words in it. And it was kind of hard to stay with it, but I did. But I'm glad the book is picking up after that. I think the introduction is very necessary.
It is.
But it's a little bit hard for me. I don't know. But it was written a long time ago.
Yes, it was.
Notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what revision I have of it. I think it's been revised several times.
So what made it hard for you, Linda, like the words? What is it just that, is it, because I know in my case, which little pages I've read, it's because of the topic. So I'm like, so what am I supposed to be getting from this? What is, so shamanism. So I'm already going in with a preconceived anticipation of, okay, so I don't know if that is, if anybody's feeling that. I was asking Linda because she brought up the words as being a bit heavy. Thank you.
It wasn't so much the long words, but the just me staying focused and focusing on his meaning. What is he trying to get across? It was just hard.
A little bit. I thought, Linda, it was a little bit scattered in the beginning. He wasn't as specific as today's authors may be about, what is the introduction and what is it we're going to be learning and reading about, And I'm looking at my book, and it wasn't until page 20 that he described what a shaman is.
Right.
Which is, it says a shaman is a word from the language of the Tongass people of Siberia and has been adopted widely by anthropologists to refer to people in a great variety of non-Western cultures who were previously known as witch or witch doctor, medicine man, wizard, magician, or seer. And then he said a shaman is a man or woman who enters an altered state of consciousness at will to contact and utilize an ordinarily hidden reality in order to acquire knowledge, power, and help other persons. And that from that point on, it caught my interest. I felt a little bit lost myself in reading in the way. I think it's not you or the words. I think it's the presentation, the way that the book is written. It's a little scattered, I think, for me too. I don't know if anybody else got that.
Yeah. Once I got to the story, it was really, I got really involved. It was just, I guess I wasn't involved in the beginning. I was just trying to understand it all.
Yeah, me too.
I think I've only read the first 2 chapters. Sorry about that. But
that's where I'm at.
Is that where you're at?
Yeah,
I think it's different. We have to approach this book different than we did the others. I think the others, we were approaching them as self-help kind of books. I think this one is more like interest, I was very entertained about his way of doing research and his story of going and meeting the people in Peru and different places. They caught my interest too, Mary Lou. The stories became interesting, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
I think shamanism to me seems like it's kind of so removed from everything else we've ever studied in that it's going to take a while for us to really understand what he's trying to convey. I don't know, maybe you feel differently, but I was like you in the beginning, Linda, but once I got into the story, it really captured my interest.
Yeah,
and
me too.
It's something I'm really curious about knowing. I just, not that I'm going to eat bugs or anything, but but I'm interested in knowing it. And at the end of the second chapter, he does assure everybody that they're not all the same, that there's a lot of cultures where the shamans don't use drugs, let's face it, narcotics or hallucinogenics, or who do eat bugs and things like that, so it's a broad term used for many different cultures. And so I'm kind of interested to see where it goes from here.
Yeah.
Because, the first time he mentioned him eating a bug, I was like, okay, that's not for me. I won't eat a bug. So, but yeah, I'm interested in it. I want to see where it goes. Yeah. What about you, Charlie?
Yeah, it's some deferred the two where he became the shaman, and the acts he had to go through or whatever, like the almost dying experiences, the near death experience, and stuff like that was, it was like, wow, But, if you ever did drugs or whatever, you could relate to some of that, where it was like, wow, and called the witch doctor. That's when I was at work, I used to sell nutraceutical drugs, not drugs, natural stuff. And that one guy used to call me witch doctor. So that was like funny. And, and I had the near-death experience too. So it's like, I relate to some of the, the experiences that happened in the book. So it's like, yeah, it's good so far. It's, but like he said, like all shamanism isn't all extreme is the first two chapters that he put us through. So I'm looking to see, but
It made me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Charlie.
No, there was a part where he goes into you do a meditation or something. I don't know if that's coming in the next chapter or that was the one that just passed. Because I've been so busy, I haven't picked up the book in about a week. So I fell behind, but I'll catch back up. So
I think we're all about the same place.
Yeah.
Rough.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was an easy read to get into, for me.
Yeah, I guess that was my point,
So
Well,
two chapters was an.
Sorry, Mary Lou. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. All right.
I was just going to say at first,
Teri's got to take control here.
I got my mouth closed. Go ahead, Mary Lou.
No, you go, Jean.
Mary Lou's been trying to say something.
I was, at the beginning, it was like, these are kind of all the things we were told to stay away from. you know, when
That's true.
when I was young, when I was raised in the Catholic Church, and these are kind of things that they told you, you know, you don't mess with these things. These are bad things, you know. So that was a little bit, you know, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be reading this, or, you know, but then I got interested in it. And, you know, I'm interested in it, I think, because, well, for two reasons. One, I think cultures are all different, and this has lasted over you know, hundreds of years. So there's something to it that it keeps, you know, going. And the other thing too is because of Nanu Timpico, who's my great grandmother, who comes to me, and she was a medicine woman. So I'm kind of curious as to, you know, what she might have known. And I can feel her sometimes. I think Teri's experienced her once at least. So it's, you know, I'm kind of interested because of that. Yeah.
And what I was going to say is, going back to that page 20 where they're describing it, you know, it seems like there's a mystery to it all, in that not all shamans are medicine men, and not all, you know, wizards or magic men, you know, necessarily are shamans. And I'm still trying to, I have a curiosity about the shaman, and wondering, you know, well, what was his specific role, and what made him a shaman? You know, was he born a shaman, or, you know, did he, like, I think of the monks, you know, my husband and I were talking about the Weston Priory back in the day. He had a friend that lived in Vermont that he'd go visit. And he was telling me about it one day, and they lived near a monastery of monks. And they used to spy on them. You know, they were fascinated because they didn't speak, but they were out in the fields, you know, doing their gardening. And they were fascinated because they dressed differently than the norm. And he said, you know, he just remembers doing that with his friend as a boy, you know, watching them and wondering about them. And I had taken a trip with my church group to a place called the Weston Priory, where there were monks that were very much like what he was describing. And we both wonder if it was, his town was not Weston, but I tried Googling it to see if it was nearby, just because it was fun to have a connection of our past that we didn't know about. And, you know, and I think about a monk, you know, who was born, you know, with something within them, you know, within their being that made them choose that as a way of life, as who they wanted to be. But is a shaman, like, does it happen like that for them, you know, or do they you know, like, are they trained, you know, to be like that, you know, and is there any similarity, or, you know, is it a totally different thing? It makes me wonder about it.
Well, you know, Mary Lou, the very first thing that you read was that description of the shaman. Can you read that again? Because
Yes.
I want us to think about these words that are used to describe what a shaman is. Think of that also in relation to the yogis, because as you were reading that description, that's what came to my mind was, oh my gosh, that's describing a yogi. So let's read it again. That passage you read.
In like, aren't yogis and shamans and monks, in my thought processes, they're all on the similar plane, in that they've in its essence died to themselves, you know, right, of all worldly things, as a typical human would know the world. They just released all that and gone into a different kind of mind world, where they're in total, their desire is just to be in total connection with a greater power, you know, with something above them, you know. That's how I think of it. But here's what it says: the shaman is a word from the language of the Tungus people of Siberia and has been adopted widely by anthropologists. Now, what's an anthropologist? I don't know what it
studies. It's a person who studies human beings, different cultures.
And cultures.
Okay. Who to refer to persons in a great variety of non-Western cultures, which were previously known by such terms as witch doctor, medicine man, sorcerer, wizard, magician, and seer. One of the advantages of using the terms is that it lacks the prejudicial overtones and conflicting meanings associated with the more familiar labels. Furthermore, not every kind of medicine man or witch doctor is a shaman. A shaman is a man or woman who enters an altered state of consciousness at will to contact and utilize an ordinarily hidden reality in order to acquire knowledge, power, and to help other persons. The shaman has at least one and usually more spirits in his personal service.
That wasn't on page 20.
Uh-oh,
Yes,
do I
it
have
is.
Do I have the wrong book, Charlie?
No, it's
I
on
must
page
have
20. I
Not
see
on
it, Mary
mine.
Lou.
Do you have the classic work in an updated edition?
No. I have the Harper San Francisco edition by Michael Harner.
I have Michael Harner, but it says the classic work in an updated edition.
Oh, I didn't get updated, I guess.
I have that, Charlie. It's on page 20. The introduction.
Charlie went into an altered state of mind.
Well,
I'm
I was
looking to
going to
see
say that.
Oh,
but
20 on the introduction. XX. I'm looking on page 20 of the.
that's
this
where
is-
I'm looking.
okay.
It's on page
This
20.
is chapter 2, page 20.
Page 20.
The first
Yeah.
page, chapter 2.
It
Yes.
says, the top of the page, it says, my companions did not make a fire at the night.
No,
Came, we
Oh,
were
that's-
all
Are you
stretched
sure
out.
you're on chapter 2, hon?
Yeah.
you're
I
not
don't-
on the introduction 20, are you?
This is what my
No,
page looks
chapter
like.
2, 20.
Whoops. Let me get
Well,
this.
anyway. Anywho,
Anyway, from remembering.
What were your thoughts, Teri, on,
Yeah.
the
So-
shaman?
Right. So as I was listening to that, I was thinking about the autobiography of a yogi, where he goes into the description about, going into those altered states of mind. And, the yogi, some of them, probably all of them, can be multidimensional. They can be in one place, and then all of a sudden they're somewhere totally different. So I was thinking about that when they were talking about the shaman being known as the witch doctor and all of these things that people were perceiving them as. And it just seems like such a similar path, the shamanism and being a yogi and the monks, any of those that go very deep into their spirituality. So I just thought it was very interesting, that description that was given, that
Yeah.
it's not just the shaman. There's
Well, and
others
he
that
did,
are the
like
same.
Charlie. Yeah, and like Charlie was saying, he talked a lot about using psychedelic drugs and things like that.
Mhm.
I found it a little disturbing, because I didn't think of a shaman being one that did that. I mean, I know we had stories about the Indians using a peace pipe, and there was drugs in there, to change their minds, but I don't know that all holy people that are on that realm necessarily use psychedelic drugs to get to that place. I think they do it by the silence that they live and by the mindsets that they have.
Yes, mindfulness.
Yeah.
I found it, but it's on 25
Oh, okay.
in my book.
Maybe your book
Different-
is the same as ours,
Yes.
but different setup.
different printing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the commonality is they can change their altered state at will.
Yes.
And some people use psychedelic drugs, but the yogis and some of the shamans don't need to do that.
Mhm.
And I think he did it to make the journey, to get into it faster, so it didn't take years to learn how to change it by himself. I think once you've done it, it's easier to do again. So
Good point, Linda. Thank you.
I think being an anthropologist like he was, he probably wanted to explore it, like you said, Linda, faster than what another person would do. And that's why he used and he had studied those people, so he knew that they used them. So he was more, I guess, confident in using them than say we would. Yeah.
and
But
where
I think that what he calls SSC, the shaman state of consciousness, is what they're after. That ability, like you said, to go into an altered state and find things that are not in the OSC, the ordinary state of consciousness. So, yeah, I find it fascinating. I really do.
Yeah. And another difference I saw is that he had psychedelic drugs, but they were grown locally and the people knew how to use them, and he was supervised and had an antidote. So I'm not saying to go do that. I'm just saying where he was, it wasn't illegal, and that was a common practice of shaman.
Yeah.
And they knew they were there to protect him, as opposed to someone just taking him, and walking in the desert or something, walking off a cliff. And they said some people have walked off cliffs doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Not supervised. So
Well, even, it's kind of relevant in today's world, I think, in some ways, because I have a friend that, here in Massachusetts, it's only been about a year, since you've been allowed to go to pot shops and purchase, different types of marijuana in their different forms. And they got some lotion. They had a knee problem, and the sister had actually gone and gotten some lotion, and she said it was great. It helped her so much when she was sleeping at night, when she felt aches and pains, and they tried it, put it on their knee, and it was hysterical because they said, one of the other relatives came out in the yard and said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm peeing in the bushes because I can't move. My knee won't function. I just put on some of that cream that our sister gave us, and I can't move with it." And it just makes me chuckle, Linda, when I heard you say they had people around them, when they were doing that kind of thing, to assist them. So I guess it's always a good thing, no matter what you're experimenting with, when it's something not natural, to what your body and your culture is used to.
Right.
Yeah. Suzanne is with us, and she says, "I don't think all shamans take drugs. I had several readings done by a local shaman here. She is a totally cool mom, and shamanism is in her bloodline. And she has a minivan."
Well, that's what I mean about the bloodline.
Have minivan will travel, I guess.
There you go.
You have to have the right background. background with your with how you project yourself and in the bloodline to go with it.
That's one reason I'm interested in it, because evidently it's in my bloodline or my past lives or something, and so I'm kind of fascinated because I feel her power, but mostly I feel her love for humanity. So I want to know a little bit more about it. But I was going to say about the marijuana, I don't know why I'm so congested today, but Teri got me this. I probably shouldn't show her to be an advertisement, but she got me this salve, and it's CBD salve, and it's wonderful. It helps so much.
Yeah, I have friends that love
especially
it.
my hands. And then I went to see my son, and he uses another one called Tiger Balm. And yes, it works, but it makes me high. It does. I can feel
Yeah, different
the-
kinds. I think every company,
Yes.
you know, has their own little solutions that they use, and you just need to find the one that's best for you.
Yes. Yeah, because I can't use that one, but this one I love.
I'd like to see Miss Auntie Jean high.
No, you don't.
I was saw me a little high the other day when I had that pina
She
colada.
had a pina colada and you don't want to see her high. It's fun. It's all good.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm kind of fascinated by things.
I think the bloodline is a good point to talk about, because you wonder how someone becomes a shaman or why they want to be a shaman. But I know as far as the healers in Indian tribes, a lot of times that is passed down through a bloodline. It can skip generations. Sometimes it can be the grandmother and the granddaughter or whatever. And you don't have to be in the bloodline, but a lot of times it is. And along with being in the bloodline, they grow up, the talk about healers, grow up seeing their mothers or grandmothers make the concoctions all the time, or knowing what to do and going with them and seeing what works and what doesn't. And you know, a lot of tribes only had what was around, like the willow bark and the this and that. They couldn't go to a store, so they had to rely on what they had to use.
Grace Isis, what are you thinking about it coming from
I was
a non-Western culture? You know, what are you thinking of it so far?
Well, the way I'm thinking about it, for me, it's very natural, and I know it's also within me. I had an uncle who was a shaman. We didn't call them shamans; they were called healers, medicine men. And I have an uncle who's just in his 70s, and you see, for what I see it as, it's the very basics of being here on this journey. Um, and very much close to the indigenous peoples, because when it calls about hallucinogenics, you know, those things are all plant-based, and most of them are. Even the CBD, is it CBD, BDBDs?
CBD.
Like playing the piano.
Yes. So, you know, in the developed world, it you know, it becomes it's also the way that it was discovered. You know, the hallucinogenic aspects come into when there is a ritual, like when there is the transition into manhood, you know, rites of passage. And all they used to do is, even my uncle today will go and pick up a piece, a branch from a bush, and I'm like, what's that about? He said, here, take this, and you know, chew it, and it will clean your mouth. And you know, because as you know, Africans, we are always chewing on a bark, which really actually is peppermint, and that's how we brush our teeth with that. And these are still practiced in the hinterlands, and now they're bringing them into the modern, you know, cosmopolitan teas, etc. So for me, what it was, and I do believe that Jesus too was a shaman. The yogis are shamans. It's those who were, and I could be going out of my realm, but to me it feels, and the way I understand it is, if you're able, when you are awake, when you are in tune with just the divine movement, the movement of the energy of Mother Earth, of the universe, you are a shaman. You are a shaman, because that's what's coming from within you, as we're always told. We are spiritual beings on a human journey. So the shamanic is within each and every one of us. It's just the different practices of touching, you know, getting in tune with it. And it also, I believe, depends on the century or the time that you are that you're here on your journey. I know I was, sometimes we're even called sages, you know. And I do, and so to me it's more or less the 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 time the time of your journey. If you come into the 19th century, you're going to travel in a different vehicle that's not going to be called shamanism, or I mean it's going to be called shamanism. If you were before Christ, it was who were the three wise men. So I
Maybe
don't,
the prophets,
yeah, the prophet, and
they
then
were
The
different.
seers.
right,
Mhm.
and the yogis. So and then we have the monks, because if you really wonder about it, all they do is they're back to the basics of the spiritual energy, that you can sit in silence and heal yourself. You're a shaman, you see. And that's how in my case, I have a quick anecdote story. My grandfather, when my mother was telling me this, and my grandfather told me that there was a medicine man. He's called a medicine man, and he had all these necklaces around himself. And you're in tune with spiritual power. There's some who use it for the negative and some for the positive. It really was a healing. They didn't have like doctors in those days. You went to someone who was in tune with the earth. So this medicine man, my mother had a brother, let's call him John. He was called John, and he was a young man and very hardworking, always with his father. And the medicine man, then they called them witch doctors, he was jealous of this young my mother's brother, right? And so he put a curse. And so this young boy only went to the age of, I think, 14, around there, between 10 and 14, and he died. And so my grandmother had another young boy and named him the same name, and he only reached that age and he died. So I remember my mom telling me that she remembers her father going and really going with the machete and the blunt side of the machete and really beating, having an altercation with the witch doctor, with the medicine man, and he got some bruises. So his necklaces, they went in because I don't know what they had, but that's how he ended up dying. But that curse was broken when he died. But they start off as, how do you look after, how do you heal? They're really healers. They're really doctors. And so when they go to these plants are there, they take them and then they discover, oh, this can actually numb the pain. And and therefore that's where the hallucinogenic and all these things come from. And sometimes we that's how you get somebody out of the state that they were in, but that's my understanding. So thank you for asking. Sorry it's so long-winded, but I believe
Thank you,
we all have it within us.
That was wonderful.
Mhm.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grace.
Hope it makes sense.
It makes sense. And we have Amanda Summer with us in the audience. And she asks, what's different, marijuana or prescription medications, which block cellular structures in the body at the DNA level? They both can have points in helping. Depending on perception, we should be able to listen to our bodies and have what helps. And I so agree. And I think that's what any of these spiritual beings that are here on earth, that's what they are aware of, whether it's the shaman, the yogi, the monks, whatever it is, they learn how to use what Mother Earth provides for us.
Yeah.
The earth gives us everything that we need to be here on this human experience and to survive and to live and thrive here on the earth. So if they're there and they're there to help us heal, then why wouldn't we use them? That's my question.
Yeah, you're right. God gave them to us, so let's use them. I
Yeah.
was thinking as Gracie was talking, and maybe this is going to sound real strange, but a lot of us, you're a master healer, I a time healer, and Reiki and everything else. I'm a time healer when I use it. There are people like they call you up and they say, I need some healing. And you send them healing. And for the most part, they get a little better. And then if they call you again, they get a little better. That's being a shaman.
Yeah.
That's what other people would say. Well, they're a shaman. They're a medicine man, a healer. So, it's a perception, I guess, the way we look at it. I think with shamanism, like Gracie says, is that it's more connected to the earth and the early purposes of, like you said, the plants and all that. So there's really no difference. And the doctors are just people who've made it an education thing out of the same plants and the same methods and stuff that the medicine men used and the medicine women used. So it's interesting. It's all connected. Yeah. All
Yeah.
connected.
And for example, the way to get, I believe it's progress, it's development, it's because maybe the only way to get those plant-based or those those medicines from the olden days are through pills, are through a way that you can get to the masses. I have a quick story, and sorry to interject again. So when I
Don't
was
apologize. It's good, Ray.
We love your story.
so when I was in Kenya in 2020, I was stuck there because of COVID. We have our neighbor who's just like our aunt. They have 3 boys. We have 5 girls. So those were our brothers. We were their sisters. And their mother had a sore knee. And she went to South Africa for healing, for medicine treatment. She went to India, but it just, something wasn't right. So they went to Mount Kenya. And they went to see a group of, okay, we'll call them shamans. And they're called elders, medicine men. And they listened to her story. And then she went home and they told her, well, your problem with your knee is because your husband never finished the dowry. He never finished giving your parents the full dowry. There are things in your past that need to be reconciled, that need to be tied up, some knots. And so what you need to do is you need to go and slaughter a goat and do it under a tree, and only the immediate family has to eat from that and make the bonfire. And then do not douse the bonfire, just leave it, let it burn itself out. And during the course of a couple of weeks, there were 5 crows, 5 birds that came to her windowsill. And I remember telling them, I don't know where this came from, but I told them, I said, wow, 5 is the number of change. It says there's something that's going to happen. And I think one of them came in and hit their beak, but there was a little bit of blood, but not that much. And so she did go back to her doctor in South Africa, and they were like, how did you heal? Whatever we were seeing in there and the medicine we were giving you is no longer there. So now it's, it's just, they could see it was healing. So in actuality, the medicine men came and they went out, and then there was a great storm that happened that doused that fire out. And then within 7 days she passed, but everything had healed. She was healed, and that had taken its course. So I believe that we are. It's amazing that it's different ways. We're just reminded. We have a lot of help, and we're all spirit, and this dimension that we're in is a physical, but we disintegrate when we go into, when we're buried, when we go back into, what do they say, from dust back to dust, from ashes to ashes. So that was very interesting for me to see that.
And Grace Isis, what it makes me think of is those great words of seek and you shall find, knock and you shall be granted. And also, that your faith, your belief is based on your faith of believing. And that, we have been taught different rituals, and the shamans, I think from what I'm reading so far, they have their rituals, that bring them to that place of recognition of the power within them, that where we find our belief, and then they're able in that love, in that power of that belief, to help others. And that's what attracts us to go to the shaman, to go to those people that are really living in the light, in the love. And we want that for ourselves. And so when they speak to us, they've already come to a place that says, believe inside of yourself. And that's when the miracles happen.
And it's very funny, because if you listen carefully, it always goes back to source. It always goes back to God. It always goes back to love. Love is has a different word for everyone, but at the end of the day, it's always back to love, and they will point you back to source. Because these particular ones, in this time in Kenya, they were like, you know what? In Kenya, we pray looking at Mount Kenya, because Mount Kenya is 17,000 feet above sea level. It's like the third highest mountain, or the second in the world. I think Kilimanjaro is second, but because that was the highest point to reach to God. When you were on top of it, you felt perspectively, oh, you can touch God, you can touch the sky. So that's what it always comes back to, our creator, our source. We are co-creators. That's in us. That's who we are. We're an extension. And that's where they come from.
Everything I've been reading lately has led me to that thought, Mary Lou and Gracie, that it's within us. We have this power that comes from source within us. So a lot of healing, a lot of all this is within us. And I think that's what the shamans do, is they kind of activate that power within you so you can heal yourself. And I think that's probably what happened with your story. She could do it herself with her own conscious mind and spiritual power that we're all given. Exactly. So, anyway, it's fascinating. I'm so glad that everybody else is kind of finding it fascinating too. So see where it goes. You feeling okay, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to, his next part of shamanism. I mean, the first two chapters were, the extreme, and I'm just looking at, the next two is, and I think they do a if I'm not mistaken, in the next chapter, they do a meditation, or whatever.
I'm sure. I'm really glad Susan spoke up and told us about her visit to the shaman, because obviously I don't think this shaman that helped her was taking drugs or eating bugs, Seemed like a very nice person.
You made a poem, Jean.
And I think Teri is so thank you for bringing the fact that the yogis are shamans as well. They really are, because if you look at Yogananda, and the way he traveled, you know, and the masters too, even Kuan Yin, you know, she's a modern day shaman. She's right here with us. So it's I'm very happy, and I thank you all for being open to listening and to knowing about this. I have a very good friend in Massachusetts, in Gloucester, who's a shaman. And when I go up there, we do a lot of traveling underground. And like it's shamanism is more with the earth, you know. So that's why when I do some of my meditations, I'm always seeing tunnels. I'm always traveling, you know. But welcome to a new dimension. Thank you. And
It is. It's a different dimension. And Suzanne says, "No drugs, no bugs." She is she's a beekeeper as well. Well, I will stay away from her. I don't think I get along with bees very well.
I love bees.
I love them too. I do. I love them. I like loving them from a distance.
Ron gets mad at me because I'll go out and work in the garden and they're all over the place. I said, well, I just tell them to leave me alone, that I'm doing this to help them, and they leave me alone. I don't know why.
They respond to your energy. It's like with any animal. They're going to respond to your energy. So if they sense fear in you, then of course they're going to react to that. So yeah, if you remain calm, which you always do. I mean, Jean wouldn't hurt anything. So they sense that. They know that from you. And I think that's the beauty of anything that we study, like shamanism. We understand more of working with the earth, working with the elements and the elementals and all the animals. I think one of the chapters coming up even is going to be the animals that they work with, the power animals. So I'm interested in how that looks and what comes into play there. I'm loving it. I've known a shaman for 9 or 10 years now. He would lead us in a full moon ceremony every month. And it was so interesting just to sit and talk to him either before or after the ceremony. And he studied in the Peruvian Andean mountains. And that's where he learned, that's where he became a shaman. So I learned from him that kind of tradition, because there's different shamans, just like what we talked about. They have different rituals, different beliefs. But in the Andes, they're so ingrained in honoring everything about the earth. And that's what appealed to me, because I come from a Native American heritage where we do the same thing. The indigenous people all honor the earth. They honor everything about it. If they use something, they use every part of it, every piece and part. There's no waste. And even if they do consume animals, they use every part. You know, there's really, they honor everything that's on the earth. And I think that's a big lesson we can learn from anything that we study like this, whether it is indigenous or the shamans, yogis, whatever it might be. Yeah, we're all here walking each other home and doing the best we can with what we've got. And if we can learn and benefit from a way of life that is honoring and respecting the earth and each other, then that's the best thing we can do. It's the best we can do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I always say that's how we have peace come over the world, is when we start doing that, when we start honoring each other and seeing each other for who we really are, not the human body, but our soul. And that's what shamanism is. It's looking at the soul level instead of the human level. So I've loved this conversation today. I can't wait to see what the future ones are going to bring. And thank you to our audience, everybody that came in and participated. And just so happy that we have this book going on and we have this interaction with each other and with the audience. Anybody have anything to add before we get off of here? I've loved all of your input. I think everybody contributed today, and I appreciate that.
And before I start reading again, I'm going to tap into that inner shaman within me, like Jean said, that we all have that place of love within us. And,
Yes.
and we can think of ourselves as a shaman or, as just a person that wants and desires what the shaman wanted was that connection with our center, with our God inside of us. So I think I'll do that before I read. I think I'll make a little mini moment and be in connection with that inside of me.
Oh, beautiful, Mary Lou. And I appreciate Gracie too, talking about, it all comes down to love. And Kuan Yin, of course, the goddess of compassion and love, has taught us that love is what heals. And that's where the power is when you tap into that inner place that you're talking about, Mary Lou, and finding that place of love inside of you. Gracie, you had something else?
No.
Okay. I saw your little light flash on your screen. So
No, I was just being prepared with my mic open so I can.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for all of your input. That was wonderful. Just, the stories. I love stories. So let's keep that going.
We're all on a journey. We say our life is a journey, and that journey includes knowledge, finding all the interesting things in this world, all the spiritual connections we have with each other, and that unites us as one, which we are. We're one. We're all one.
Yeah.
So this is just another step on that journey.
I agree, Mary Lou. Big old heart on that one.
Susan says that the shaman's name is Eagle Skyfire.
Wow,
If you want to look her up, she has a page.
Eagle Skyfire.
I don't see that message.
Yeah.
He's on Messenger.
Soul Food Book Club. It came through on.
Oh, on Messenger, not on the in the comment.
Right.
Yeah, not in the Facebook comments. Okay.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Eagle Skyfire.
All right.
On the Facebook page.
Cool.
Thank you, Susan.
Suzanne, thank you for being with us today. So much love to you. And to Amanda and Jorge was with us, and Isabel. Thank you all for being here today. And on Zoom, thank you, Linda, and for your contribution. I love that that you could share that it was difficult getting past that first part, but you stuck with it. Perseverance. I'm very proud of you for that.
I followed through. Well, one reason I brought it up is because other people may find it difficult as well. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want them to give up because the book offers so much more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly does. And good things are worth waiting for, aren't they? So if we persevere, then we find that sweet center. So thank you all for being here. So much love to everybody. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel, and we'll talk some more about the way of the shaman and the name of the author, Michael Harner. So anybody that wants to jump in, get a copy of it, or just come in and have a discussion with us about it, you're welcome to come on Zoom and give your thoughts, or stay in the audience and give your thoughts. We can see all of your comments. So thank you again. Let's all get off of here and get on with our day. I think Jean and I are taking a little road trip and enjoying this beautiful El Paso weather today. It's absolutely gorgeous here. So we're going to get out and about, and we're going to leave everybody with Namaste, y'all. So much love. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.